Welcome, Jessie DaSilva. How the fuck are you, girlfriend?
So good. I'm so glad that we are chatting. I'm very excited about this show.
Yay. Oh, me too. And for those of you playing along at home, Jesse and I definitely had a 2 hour friend conversation last night. So this is more or less just a continuation of a conversation that happens 24/7 between text messages and phone calls. But
Text
here we are.
messages, Facebook Messenger. We use like we always have multiple conversations going on.
We have matching cats too.
We do.
We do. We do. Okay. So, for the purposes of bracketing a conversation that goes on for 24/7, we're going to make it specifically about manifestation now because this is
Yep.
something that both of us are super fucking into. And this is how we met, actually, right? We met
Yep.
through Lacey Phillips' work.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
for those of you that don't know Lacey Phillips stuff, she's got a website. It's just tobemagnetic.com, TOBE magnetic.com. She's got a lot of frameworks that I actually don't like, but I have met one of my best friends through her. So here we are. Okay, Jesse, let's jump in. Give us your textbook working definition. What the fuck is manifestation?
To me, manifestation is literally like manipulating energy
Yeah,
to like allow your wildest dreams to come true.
I love it. I love
That's
it.
just off the top of my head because it's really that. Like it makes you feel like you're like in what who is it? Doctor Strange from the Marvel universe. Like it feels like you're manipulating matter once you kind of get it.
Okay, break that down more. Cause so the premise of this project for everyone, right, is that I am really, really fucking frustrated with different gurus and coaches holding themselves out as the way to manifest. And
Mm.
so I'm interviewing a bunch of different fucking awesome people who all have slightly different processes, right? And different approaches to it. Break down a little bit more about what you mean by manipulating energy, manipulating matter.
Okay, I will use like money as an example since that's
Yeah.
like my specialty. So I'm gonna focus on that. So you'll see that like when people
Oh no, your audio went out. You're frozen and I can't hear you. Okay, I've got you back.
hello.
Hi.
Okay, so when people get to a certain point in understanding how to manifest and how to manifest money, you'll hear
Mhm.
them say, like, oh, yeah, money is energy, money is energy. That phrase gets repeated everywhere. And then when you
Mhm.
ask somebody to explain it, they don't know how. It's one of those things where it's like you don't get it until you get it.
Yep.
And so I made it my mission to really break that down for people. So for
Mhm.
me, when people are saying like money is energy, and this works for anything, right? Like
Yeah.
it works for love, it works for self love, it works for weight loss, it works for everything. When we say money is energy, we're saying two things. One, money isn't real. And
Yep.
two, like money is a renewable resource.
Yep.
So taking the first concept, money isn't real. Money is literally just a physical representation of transaction. Like,
Yep.
without all of us as a society collectively agreeing upon its value, it's
Yep.
meaningless. It's just paper, it's just metal. It
Yep.
doesn't have any intrinsic value. It's
Yep.
just because we all accepted and decided that it does.
Yep.
And it's literally there to basically keep us from having a barter system where it's like, I trade you for this, you trade me for this,
Right.
and like people having different ways of valuing things like, well, I think I should have like more than just like four blankets for these goats that I'm giving you, like I should
Yeah,
have more of this,
exactly.
right? It's just to standardize it. So it literally grew out of like us deciding it has meaning. And
Mhm.
then once we realize that, like, so what is it literally there for? It's literally there, it's a physical representation of transaction.
Yep.
And so when we think about like the word currency, the root word of currency is the Latin currens. And
Mhm.
the other word that shares that root word is current, like in a river or an ocean. It's just movement. Same with transaction. It's the movement of goods, the exchange of services. That's
Mhm.
literally just what it is.
Can I just put a pin in here and say
Oh,
you're a
yeah.
huge nerd for
Yeah,
knowing
I
the
know.
Latin word? But
I know.
by all means, go on.
So it's literally just explaining like how like what it is. It's just movement between
Mhm.
people. It's literally just relational.
Yep.
So if we, and like now that money is less and less physical, it's
Hmm.
mostly us carrying around debit cards and just looking at numbers in a bank and like a website
Yeah, yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Like it's, yeah, it's even more under, like it's even less physical. It's even easier to understand that it's just kind of this, like these made up numbers, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so now that brings us to like the second point, which is that like money is a renewable resource. So
Hmm.
when you grow up in scarcity, which a lot of us have, you
Yeah.
you believe this idea that money is like a fossil fuel. There's only a
Hmm.
certain amount of it, and some places have more of it than others, and it's going to run out someday, so you
Yeah.
have to be really careful with how you use it and all of that. When in actuality, money is more like sunshine. You can't see sunshine, it's just
Mm.
there. Like
Yeah.
we know it because it casts a glow on everything and it allows us to see, but you
Yep.
can't necessarily see sunshine, it's just air. And so when you realize that like money is just like around us, you want, the way you can kind of make that click for yourself is just looking at where you can't see it around
Hmm.
you. So an example of this is like I still live in an apartment complex. So when I'm like walking down to the pool or walking to the gym or even just taking a little stroll, I'm looking at like, wow, there's so many people living in this complex and all of them are paying rent
Yep.
online to this apartment complex. And I see all these cars in a parking lot. People are making payments on these things. They're using these cars to like get to work or to see loved ones.
Yep.
And then they're getting paychecks from that. And like money is just like constantly moving
Yep.
in this area. It's like happening, it feels almost like it's happening over airwaves.
Yeah.
So when you literally start to shift how you look at it and you're like, oh, it's literally just make believe. And if I can just decide that, like, I'm able to receive it because it's literally floating around in the air past me all the time,
Yeah.
then it becomes easier to accept that you can have it and it can come to you like almost like falling out of the sky because it's literally like surrounding you like air, like sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love the idea when we think about it as kind of like a trading of labor in exchange for a currency that we can, then can, turn into coffee cups and groceries and whatnot, right? It gives us the ability to see that it's like, right, my labor, if I were to go become a carpenter, right? Like my energy expended in the building of a bookcase, right? That's energy being put into a bookcase that is then being put into, right, a paycheck. One of the things that I think is really helpful that you're touching on is you're taking money out of this idea of a thing that's scary, right? A lot of people get scared, even like I'm nervous to talk about money, right? And like money is a very difficult thing for a lot of us. We have, my specialization in trauma, we have a kind of a like deep rooted snapshot picture on our nervous system that says this is not a safe thing to talk about, much less a safe thing to expect, right? Like I can't expect that money is always going to be there because money wasn't there for me when I was growing up, right? Or it was talked about in a way that money wasn't there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've like started to substitute that helped me on my journey to becoming comfortable making six and now six plus figures, right? Was just saying money is math. Like money is math. Like I like math. Like I
That might scare some of us though.
right right, but when we think about it
Right.
as like money is just numbers on a screen, it's literally at this point just
Right.
numbers on a screen, right? And there have been times in my life where I felt safe charging thousands of dollars to work with me, and there have been times where I feel safe charging tens of $1,000s to work with me, right? And it came down to a fundamental comfort of like, one of the things that helped me really shift to understand the impact that I had on people and like what the energy exchange was I have an $800,000 education, right? And you too, you're an attorney, right? And journalist and all these things. When I realized the amount of energy that I put into becoming qualified to do what I do, into
Mm.
training, continuing my education, the kind of potency that I deliver to people, a lot of energy went into that, right? And like that energetic exchange of the value that I am giving you is equivalent to this, right? And like feeling comfortable with it not being about money, but instead being about the effort and energy that I put into being able to do this for you cost
Right.
me 15 years and $800,000, right? Or the equivalent of, right? Because I was fellowshipped and blah, 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 blah. But when I took it out of this is how much it costs to work with me, and put it into the amount of time and energy and effort that went into me being able to do this thing for you was this much, right? Like it becomes much more about an exchange of the things that I put in and the things that you put in, right? And being able to think about it in this kind of more amorphous way has helped a lot of my clients feel much more safe with it, right? It's just math, right? Like I'm going to sit down and talk to my husband about math, right?
And for you, like what feels good is like saying it's just math. We're going to talk about math. And like what feels good for me is saying like, you know, it's just movement. Let's talk about movement.
Yeah.
You know? Or it's sunshine. Let's talk about sunshine. That feels wonderful.
Yeah, well, exactly. Right. And so what I want, you know, folks of you that are watching this and listening to this to get is like, Jessie and I both make comfortable livings, right? And we do similar work. And the way that we think about manifesting money is totally different, right? Totally different. And so for those of you that are tuning in and you're like, I've been doing manifestation wrong for so long. I don't understand. Like I'm getting it wrong. I'm not thinking positively. And therefore I know I'm like pushing wealth away. It's like, what if you just let that story go and instead inserted one that like works better for you, right? Like for me, it's money is math. Like I really enjoy playing with timetables and whatnot. And like money feels more fun and lighter when it's just math. And it sounds like for you, it's fun and lighter, right? When it's sunshine or whatnot, right? But I think the common thread here is that we made it something that's lighter and less scary, right? And therefore it was able to come to us much more easily.
Right. Yeah. I love it. You can tell you're a Libra and I'm a Pisces. You're like, it's just math.
It's just math. It's just math. Okay. So how did you get into all of this?
Well, I got into it via Lacey Phillips because like I was having an awakening of my spiritual gifts, or I'll say a reawakening.
Ooh, sounds fancy.
Yeah, I definitely had them when I was a kid. Like I was always that kid who like knew too much, like would say things to adults where they were like, why are you, who is this small being telling me my shit? And you know, you get one too many weird looks and you stop saying things. So I basically had a reawakening of my gifts and I went down a rabbit hole. I was like, you know what? It's at the time I was like, it's like 2019. Like there's got to be resources online for all of this.
Yeah.
I found Natalie Miles' podcast, So You Think You're Intuitive, which is her standalone episodes from the beginning are designed as a course for people who are just coming into their spiritual gifts.
Yep.
So I had started listening to those. I heard an interview with Lacey Phillips and I was like smitten from the get-go. I joined To Be Magnetic. I got my jump start from there and I started seeing, because as I was pursuing that, I was also pursuing my new like spiritual beliefs around witchcraft, and I saw so much overlap. And that's when I started combining like my knowledge of like what it takes to make a spell work or to make anything work with like the similarities I saw in manifestation. And that's kind of how I came up with my own method that I teach now.
Okay, talk to us about that, because everybody's process is different. And the thing that I hate the most about like the communities around manifestation is that there's like a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And it comes down to there's lots of different ways to do this. And it's just finding the one that works for you. So tell us about your process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would like to add to that there is no right or wrong way. Anybody who's telling you that their way is the only way is literally trying to sell you something.
Yeah. Talk about manipulation.
Yeah. Oh
Woo!
Yeah. So, and I like to say I teach concepts because you have to take the concepts and apply them in the way that works for you. So for me, it's like a 3-point formula, but the formula is like, this is just the baseline. You have to add your own intuition into it.
Yeah.
So it's a 3-point formula. It's align your intentions, embody them deeply, take inspired action daily. That's it.
Okay.
And that is really like, because that when people think about doing spells, a lot of times when you haven't done them before, you think it's just a matter of taking some actions, like saying some words, doing a little ritual, that kind of thing. And anybody who's been into witchcraft for some time will tell you that, oh my God, no, you have to like have the right intentions when you cast a spell, or it's going to bring you like a weird wonky result, or it's just going to fall flat. And it's not just that. You have to embody the spell after you've cast it. You have to like live as if it's happened, which is
Yeah.
different than faking it until you make it. It's
Yep.
like living as if. And then you also have to take actions, because magic, it's like the magic that you cast is not just for the result, it's also for the inspiration to connect with the result.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny because I am listening to you and all of your beautiful like witchiness, and I'm like, you're a witch and I'm a scientist. Like I think we have like different orientations of how we think of ourselves, right? But our process is
Right.
very similar, right? Which becomes a line. Oh, give us your definition for a line.
What do you mean for a line? Oh, like
For yeah,
alignment.
like
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I thought you meant
what
like
does it
a line. I was like, it's a segment,
no,
bitch. Like,
bitch. No, bitch. What does it mean? You
align.
say
Oh,
be in alignment with, deeply embody it, take inspired action. Break alignment down and break embody down. Because I think
ooh,
that
okay.
those
Yeah.
are those are words that get tossed around a lot, right? But again, the intention of this project is like make this idiot proof and
Absolutely.
take
Yeah.
away the like
The
stigma of
jargon.
like there's
Yeah.
one thing like you have to do it the way this person does or it's not going to work, which like fuck that shit.
No, no. This is like, for me, alignment is like, how do I get on board with it? Like, how do I get
Mm-hmm.
on board with what I'm calling in? It's
Yeah.
like, before we even get to the point where we live as if, we first have to believe that it's possible for
Yeah, a
us. And
million
that's
percent.
what alignment really is. It's looking at it and saying like, what's the internal resistance that I have to like the possibility and the reality that this could be mine, that I'm
Yeah.
capable of having this,
Yep.
and then working to basically work through that resistance, so that way you can be like, okay, no, it's believable now. Because if
Yeah.
it's not believable, you're not going anywhere. And I don't mean making it believable as in breaking it into bite-sized pieces, although that works for some people. It's
Right.
really just about like, how do I get all parts of my brain, of my personality, of my heart, how do I get them all aboard this train so we can
Yep.
head toward this intention?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think so. I'm gonna give a tangible example of like a thing in my life, right? Where right now with my part is, right, my fiance is going through cancer. We're going through all of this treatment, and we needed to stop living on a boat full time and like have a place to live on land that had like filtered air, right? And I had set the intention after getting a spiritual download, like we're gonna buy a house instead of like rent a house, right, for the interim. And when we got further information about how aggressive the cancer was, it went from we're going to buy a house and move in September to we need something now, right? And like the idea of buying a house in cash today felt, I mean, it just didn't feel believable to my human. So like in the quantum, yeah, of course that's possible, right? Choose that reality, step into it, there it is. And yet, right, we're still human. And so for me, lowering the bar and saying, no, we're going to rent a house and we're going to look at this price range and we're going to look at this neighborhood, right? Because my human had enough information about the price point and about the neighborhood and all of that, where I was like, this is 100% possible. And therefore I can have it now. Right. And I made that decision at around, I don't know, 3:30, 4 o'clock, found a listing with a phone number, which in all of the searching for months, I'd never found a listing with a phone number. It always been like this email process back and forth. Listing phone number by 9:30, we had a signed lease, right? And in the midst of that, we're driving from our home in Maryland to University of Pennsylvania Hospital, right? And so for people that think that being in alignment means like you sit down and you light a candle and then you like get on like a spiritual cleansing and you remove all of these blocks, like no, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It can
Right.
simply be like, what are the things that my human thinks are possible right now, and do I need to shift around what it is that I'm calling in, right? And
I
like,
love that, because like, what's the messaging that your human walked away with is, I want a house,
yeah,
and I had a house by the end of the day.
right,
It doesn't
exactly,
matter how it was paid for. And if anything, this is now showing your human that like, when I decide that I want to own my house, it
right,
gets to be that
exactly,
easy as well. Because
yep,
now it's like one of those things where it's like, it's always easier to like, have you ever found like it's easier to find a job when you have a job? It's
yep,
easier to make money when you have money. It's just always like that. Like, I think I read a stat somewhere like married men are more desirable to like a lot of single women because it shows that they know that they want to commit. It's like the irony of it, right? So it's
Oh my
like,
gosh. Yeah, no, but
but
on
it's
it,
that concept is that like it's easier to manifest it when you already have it.
right.
And like your human needs to like be on board with what you want. And it works in the reverse as well. I see a lot of people who get stuck because they're like manifesting where they are, and then they start getting into this like kind of like thought rut where they're just like, I'm not
Hmm.
asking for a lot, so like what's happening, like why am I not like I've been sitting here making like $5,000 every month, and I've been calling in 10 for so long. Why
Right.
can't I'm not asking for a lot. I'm not asking for a lot. And sometimes what they actually need is, rather than calling in 10,000, call in 20,000. It's
Yeah.
like, because sometimes when you fall short of your goal, you're falling exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the response is, well, let me go bigger, let me reconnect to my purpose. And that's like
Absolutely.
something I like to bring up, because you and I talk about the human a lot, but the highest self is one that people don't realize needs to be brought on board sometimes, because we
Yeah.
think your highest self is like, yeah, money isn't real, time's an illusion, all of this is a hologram, and that's what I need to be all the time. And that's not
Right.
necessarily it, because your highest self doesn't like is like, yeah, money isn't real, so why bother? It doesn't matter, I'm cared for, right? Like I'm cared for, like we're
I'm
good,
cared
so why
for.
do we
I'm
need
deeply
to what?
supported.
Yeah. And so like we're not, money doesn't even matter, we're here for like a much richer experience. And so I like to say, like, if you need your highest self to get on board, you need to like communicate, like, if I have money, this is what I can do with it. Like, this is
Yeah.
the good I can do in the world. Not only can I serve more people, whether it's in your business or your career or whatever, I can take that money and I can like pay off like the all the school lunches in my community at the local
Yeah.
school. I could like, donate to Planned Parenthood more. I could like, I would have so much more money to like do good in the world. I could pay into reparations programs,
Yep.
whatever it is. When you start like connecting your money to your mission, that's when your highest self goes, oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why we want money, because money is the mission. Money allows us to live out the mission. And so that's when your highest self is like, ah, I got it. Let's make some money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting in like 2020 was like so much about like healing and clearing and expanding what I thought was possible. And I like made this internal decision, like come January, I'm hitting the ground running. Like we're just going full balls to the wall. And I set my income goal at $26,000. I'd never made $26,000 in cash in 1 year or in one month. Right. And like I did all of my process, which I get into in a little bit in the first podcast of this series, but I did my process almost every single day, getting my human on board and getting my highest self like really excited about it. Right. And it was, by the end of the month, I'd made $34,000 in cash, which was 3,000 less than my partner made in a year. Right. And at that moment, we like sat down with all of this data and we said, like, quit your fucking job. Like, go start the cancer foundation that's been on your heart for years and years and years. Right. And so, like, that 1 month of me being willing to do the work, which by the way, $34,000 is more than I made in all of 2019 combined, despite having 4 jobs. Right. And it's because my energy was all in on what I do now. Right. And it's very comfortable for me to receive money doing what I do because I believe in the mission so much. Right. And when I had that huge windfall come through, for those of you that are like listening to this and you're like, 34 fucking $1,000, like who needs to make that in a month? Right. Me making that in a month meant that all of a sudden a cancer foundation for young adults that there was a need for in the world came into existence. Right. Like now that number of income is like very, very comfortable. Right. I have a friend in Cameroon that she does almost exactly what I do. We're creating an NGO for women in developing countries to have access to elite coaches, right? And it's like the coaches that are invested in this and donating their time, right? And me and my partner donating our time comes from the fact that we're not scrambling for money every month, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if you're one of the people listening who have a lot of guilt and shame around wanting not just enough money, but wealth, right? Really creating like comfortable, I know everything that I need is wanted and provided for. If that's a thing that makes you feel very like squirmy, because you grew up with a lot of narratives about like rich people being assholes and whatnot, like know that where you're going with this does not have to be, I have a ton of luxury. And like, I sent Jessie these like side eye screenshots from Instagram of this like health influencer who I've learned so much about, but like her kid had this like princess themed birthday party with like actual ponies and all of this.
That wasn't her kid. That was her friend's kid or cousin's kid.
It was it was her sister hosting the party. It was her fucking kid on the pony, which like, yeah. No, there's like, anyway, like the idea that a child could have a birthday party that included actual fucking pony rides and all this stuff, and it's like LA is in the background.
No. Let me just say, not just pony rides,
not just pony rides. Yeah,
like one of those like beautifully curated, like everything is like cream and millennial pink, and like they probably had staff handing out hors d'oeuvres. Like it's like one of those.
No,
I judge anybody who has that, because I'm gonna be honest, I would love to go to that party now as an adult. Like,
yeah, no, exactly, right, exactly. And so this is what I want everybody to get from this, right? Is like, when you have money, you can do whatever the fuck you want. And it doesn't have to mean something that is good or bad, right? If you grew up with the idea that having a ton of luxury and like for me, the idea of hosting a birthday party that clearly looks like it costs more than $100,000 for a child, like to me, I want to vomit in my mouth. I'm like, how much could that have done for other people and blah, 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 blah. And so for me, when I think about manifesting wealth, if I were to hold in my mind a vision of hosting $100,000 even wedding, right? Like we're planning our wedding right now. It's going to cost $3 or $4 grand, right? The idea of hosting something that would cost $100,000 makes me feel very dirty and just like gross, right? And when I feel that way, I move myself further away from being able to call in money, right? But if I think about and hold the vision in my mind and align with the vision of, my husband doesn't have to work for income right now. He can just focus on right now beating cancer and then like working to develop new cures for young adults, right? Like that gets me like super fucking fired up. Like that's how I get in alignment with wealth. And I know for you, the concept of luxury is something that like really like primes your pump.
Oh, hell yes.
Opulence, right? And so like the key takeaway from this is like your idea of alignment does not have to look like somebody else's. It's just a matter of like what works for you. Like if aligning with having $100,000 pony unicorn princess party for your 6-year-old gets you fucking juiced, like fucking go for it. Right.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, that's okay.
Yeah, if you're one of those people who like criticizes Jeff Bezos because you're like, that man could literally like fix homelessness in the United States like with the snap of his fingers. If you're one of those people and you say, oh my God, if only I had that money, what I wouldn't do in this world. The world needs you to be rich.
Yeah. Amen.
You need to be rich. Like you should be rich. And I say this not because it's as easy as saying you should be rich and now you're rich, although it can be. Yeah. But I'm saying that because it's like you need to shift how you look at money, how you think about money, because money is just a tool. It's like no different than a hammer. If we use a hammer to build a house, it's a tool used for good. If we use a hammer to bash someone's brain in, it's a tool used for evil. But the hammer is neither good nor evil. The hammer is just the tool. So it's the same thing with money. Money used to exploit others, used for evil. Money used to cure world hunger. That's the ultimate good. And so you have to stop blaming money and start looking at it as like, what can I use this for to like bring out into the world? And when you look at that, like, can you show up in the world the way you need to if you're not cared for? And your needs are going to look different than everybody's. Some people's needs are like, oh my God, I just need like a humble home. And I just want like, this cottagecore lifestyle where I like feel really chill. And that's all I need.
And some of us live on yachts.
Some people are like, well, I also need that. And I need $80 skin cream because this wrinkle in the middle of my forehead is making me crazy. Yeah. Like it's like, you don't get to define what that is. The point is that like when your needs are taken care of and your mind is not caught up in like what you're lacking, it becomes easier to manifest. Yeah. And it's like, we even see in like Buddhism a lot, like, oh, unattachment is what leads to enlightenment. Except we forget that the Buddha achieved enlightenment after being a prince. So he
Mm,
had all of his needs met. He was able to experience luxury. And only when his mind was clear of the stress of want
yeah.
could he then ask, what do I need to achieve enlightenment? Can you get there by like finding an attachment and like, giving up all of your worldly possessions? Yeah, but not everybody is designed to achieve enlightenment in that way. A lot of us need to have all of our needs and wants met to then have the space and the comfort in our minds to say, okay, and now what does enlightenment mean to me? Now, what is the meaning of life? What's the legacy I want to leave behind?
Yeah.
It's hard to ask those questions when you're trying to figure out how to pay rent.
Yeah, oh, 1,000,000%. When I think about, I was leaving full-time NGO management, very clear I did not want to run another nonprofit, and kind of like, okay, so what is the vision, right? So where am I going with this? I had 4 different part-time jobs. I was consulting, I was teaching at universities, and it was awful. I didn't have any space to think about what is it that I'm here to do? Because it was all coming from this frenetic, what I call need energy, right? I need to find a job. I need to figure out what my purpose is. Because if I don't figure that out, then we're not going to pay rent. And then it's going to be like, my son is going to have to go to his dad full time, right? Like I had put all of these kind of dire consequences attached to finding a job. And when we attach, right, this is maybe what he meant by we'll bring detachment to a different level. When we attach a bad like consequence, like I'm going to be homeless on the streets and my son's going to get taken away. When we attach a consequence to the idea of manifestation, right? And we're going to stick with money just because it's so easy and everyone in this society needs it. When we attach a need to the thing, right? I need money or this horrible thing is going to happen. What we do is we get out of that light energy of possibility and we move into this darker energy of fear, and it becomes much more difficult to move towards the thing you want. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling and you're like, well, fuck you, bitches. Like you're talking about all these, living on a yacht and apartment in Florida that has a pool and a gym and blah, 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 blah. And I'm having trouble like buying Dollar General groceries. Like find something that's less consequential and less difficult, right? And like yesterday, you and I, Jessie, were having
Yeah.
conversation just about kind of like what is a thing that you could manifest related to money that felt really light and fun, and how many, like how long, it was just minutes, like how long
Literally minutes. It was
it was,
amazing. Yeah.
right?
Literally like, yeah, because I was, I've been in a funk. We just came out of cancer season. And so like that was my thing. I was just like, and like a client had pulled out and I was like, oh my God, this is just gonna be like another spiral. I was spiraling, hence why I called you. Or why you called me or why we were talking.
There was a mutual thing. There was a
There
mutual
was.
thing.
So when I was looking at that and you were like, okay, so like let's not look at like the things that you feel like you need to pay because you're
Yeah.
stressing about paying them. What are some other things that would feel like, oh, that would be so great if I had that ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Like before it's even a stressor.
Yeah.
And so like asking myself like how does it feel to know I'd be able to pay that, whatever. And getting into that energy like literally right after we had that talk, one of
It
my
was
other
like
clients,
7 minutes
she
or
literally
something.
reached out and she was like, hey, you can run my card now. Like, you don't have to wait. Like, the money's in there. Like, I'm happy to pay it right now. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like $700 right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like the thing, you and I have different processes, right? But the core of it comes down to, do I believe that it's possible for me to have this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Am I approaching my mindset? And by that, I mean, just like, do I expect that it's possible? Right. Like not only like if I walk into McDonald's, right, I believe it's 100% possible that I can have chicken nuggets. Right. And like, then I expect that they hand me the fucking chicken nuggets. Right. Like there's no
Right.
kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna happen. It's like, of course it's gonna happen because I just like ordered chicken fucking nuggets, right? And like when we talk about alignment, it's what are you ordering from the universe that you believe the universe is actually going to bring forward, right? And the universe is just a mirror. It's just mirroring back like this is a thing I believe I can have. And it's like, indeed you can, right? So it's not like a cosmic gumball machine thing. It's just that you're living in a space where the things that you are meant to come into contact with, right? And we know what those things are because we have a desire for them, right? Desire is the thing pointing you towards the thing you're supposed to have, right? And then it's just a matter of stepping up to the plate and saying, I expect that this will happen, right? I'm clear on what it is. I believe that it's possible. And now I expect it to happen, right? And that you talk about alignment. Embodiment for me, the second part of your process for me just comes down to expectation. I call it expectation energy, right? Like I would never walk into McDonald's and be like, I'm ordering chicken nuggets. Oh my God, I doubt that it's going to happen. I don't think I'm worthy of these chicken nuggets. I'm probably worthy of not eating those chicken nuggets, actually. probably worthy of far more than that, right? But that kind of expectation energy is what I think of when you talk about embodying. Can you tell us a little bit what you mean by embody?
Yeah, so for me, embodiment is something you build because a lot of people, like, they can naturally switch on embodiment, which is why you see a lot of manifestation people don't talk to it. They'll talk about just the mindset aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll also see a lot of like just business strategy people who just talk about action. They don't talk about embodiment because they naturally have the mindset behind, like, of course
Yeah,
my method's
exactly.
going to work, because a lot of
Yeah.
them are like white men. So, anyway. But
Who
embodiment.
doesn't want my omniscient penis energy
Exactly.
wisdom?
Right. So embodiment for me is definitely more of something you build. And it looks like you can build it in different ways. Part of it can be like, the routine that you have around the things that you do.
Mhm.
It also looks like powerful boundaries. So it's like, is this,
Ooh, I love it.
I know you love boundaries.
I do.
So it's like, is this person, whether it's a client, a parent, a friend, somebody else, it's like, is this bringing me back into this energy of like smallness? And
Mhm.
so if so, like, how do I set a loving boundary with this person, or how do I let them go altogether? Not
Yeah.
just that, but boundaries around yourself,
Yeah.
because you'll see, especially with a lot of early entrepreneurs, you'll see this everywhere. Oh, I left my 9 to 5 job so I could work 14-hour days.
Ugh.
And like, no,
Yeah.
no,
I'm like,
you should
oh,
not be doing
physical
that.
reaction.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's like a lot of times working harder, like by hours, does not naturally equate to a result. And instead,
mm-mm.
what you're doing is you're burning yourself out.
Yeah.
And it becomes harder to show up when like the methods you're using are burning you out so much. So holding that boundary with yourself, like when I was very early in my entrepreneur journey, I would answer messages. If I was awake and somebody
Yeah.
asked me about my services, I would respond.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, no, I have certain business hours and I don't talk to people outside of them.
Yeah.
Like I cutting down my hours for like when I'm present, because for me, my work day is like half learning, half teaching.
Yep.
So,
1,000,000%.
so looking at that, it's also about like clearing space for things, because
Mm-hmm.
if you are feeling like things are like just in your way, like bugging you, whether they're on a big scale or a small scale, like it diverts your attention, and it
Yeah.
keeps you away from like getting in touch with that feeling like you described of expectation, right? So
Yep.
a good example of this that I like to use is, I really hate like big cheap ballpoint pens. I hate them so much. Like I am very specific with the type of pen I like.
I do too. I write with Sharpies. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I'm
Say
very
no more. I
specific, right?
understand. Yeah.
And it's like pens are such a small thing in the grand
hmm
scheme of things, right? But it's like when I'm using a pen that's not working right, I spend way too much time being like trying to like scribble it out, or like,
Yeah.
put it in a flame or whatever, and it drives me nuts. Whereas
Put it
when I'm
in a
writing,
flame. Oh my
you've never
God.
done that? Like if you put it, like, I'll use a lighter and heat up the tip and then it starts glowing again.
Whoa. I feel bad. I'm now nervous. Like my dirty mind put it in the flame, the tips start flowing. I'm like, I worry for Ian. Her fiance is in grave danger.
No, he is not. So, but like the pens I use, that's like a good example, because I used to be one of those people who would just like collect pens, like, oh, the
Mhm.
hotel pen, whatever, or somebody gave me a free pen at a conference. And I absolutely can't stand them. I
Yeah.
can't. So, like, one time, and this is like, Con Marie method, I was like, I'm getting rid of all these fucking pens. I can't
Yeah.
stand them. And I replaced them with my favorite pens. That's it. And now I use them all. When they run out, I buy a new pack. And
Yep.
it's like such a small change that had such a huge like relief
Yeah.
for me. So it can be physical, it can also be physical space too. Like, I'm really guilty of this, where it's like, I'm very messy naturally, but like
Yeah.
the
Me
mess
too.
creates clutter in my brain, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
like the mess. I've just learned how to like live with it there. And so it becomes, whether you decide to hire a cleaner or whether
Yeah.
you decide to like trade with a friend because you can't afford that, and you're like, hey, you don't like to cook, I don't like to clean, how about I make you a couple meals for the week, and like you come over and like help and clean my house. Like, that's
Yeah.
a great trade. There you go, you just manifested a cleaner.
Yep.
Or whether you like, do a deep dive on Pinterest and TikTok to find like the methods and the schedule that works for you, like all of that creates space to
Yep.
bring in more, to
Yep.
like to magnetize things, because it's like the fresh feeling, like the feeling that you have when like all the laundry actually gets put away, and it's like not out, which a lot of us are
I'm
very bad.
unfamiliar with this concept.
Well, I don't have kids, so like that's my big disclaimer. So it's like the moment where it's like you get like when you get pushed to like your breaking point, you're like, this house is disgusting,
Yeah.
and you like clean everything and it like smells really lovely, and you light a candle, and that moment of like that's what you got to bring. That's what I talk about when I say clearing space. It's
Yeah.
like bad habits can be one of those things. It can be like your literal environment, like
Yeah.
the messiness. It can also be like, clearing space from like the people you spend time with.
Yep.
People, oh, social media is a big one. I adopted
Ooh.
a new
Oof. Yeah.
policy where if I see a post that is annoying or boring, I unfollow the person. I don't care who it is. And because I
Oh,
want
I
to
love
curate,
that.
yeah, I want to curate a news feed that's inspiring, funny, and like
Ooh, we lost audio. I can't hear you. Hello? Speak again. I can see you. Can you hear me? No?
how about now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying that like I don't want a news feed that's like boring
Yeah.
or like slightly annoying. Like, you have to think about it like, trying to like, we'll say like run a 5K or even walk a 5K with a bunch of pebbles in your shoes.
Yeah.
Can you do it? Yeah. Is it going to be uncomfortable? You're going to have to pause a lot? Yeah. Wouldn't it be easier to just take the fucking pebbles out of your shoes? Yes.
Yeah.
And what all of that does is it builds up this like energy. It builds up the energy of like, I can breathe and I
Yeah.
feel good about it. Things feel possible. Like, a lot of that stuff like influences our outlook. And so
Yep.
that's what I say. Like, you have to build the embodiment. I mean, and you'll see in witchcraft, like a lot of people do deity work, meaning like they work with a type of god or goddess, either from their culture, another culture, it doesn't matter. But when you work with them, part of what deity work is emulating the energy of that
Mm-hmm.
deity. So let's say you're working with Venus or Aphrodite, or somebody who's like a goddess who's associated with love,
Yeah.
beauty, like all of that. How you're going to show up, and like people will work with her when they're trying to manifest love, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way you're going to embody Venus is like, I'm going to put perfume on every day, right? Like, a lot of us don't do that if we're just going to be at home or something, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get dressed up, I'm going to do my makeup, I'm going to feel really good about myself. If that's what feels aligned for you, if that's what makes you feel sexy and beautiful and whatever, like, that's you embodying the deity, to then
Mm-hmm.
like, so that way you kind of call their energy in so they can make your spell work. So it's the same thing, whether if you're not working with the deity, if you're trying to call money in, what do I like, what does it look like when I'm rich? Like,
Yeah.
who am I when I'm like rich, when money's in flow? like, and you taught me this yesterday when we were chatting. You were like, what are the emotions you associate with like having lots of money?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then how can you, and then asking yourself every morning, how can I get into those emotions today?
Right. And again, just calling attention to the fact that this can be totally different. When I think about, so my whole theory of the case with manifestation is if you feel the feeling of the thing, right, whatever the thing is, right, that thing will show up, right? I asked spirit after a lot of up leveling, like, how do I get into the energetic frequency of love? How do I feel the feeling of being in love? And I got a very clear answer, and I went and watched it 6 times in a row, a little clip from Forrest Gump, went to sleep feeling and imagining the feeling of falling asleep in the arms of this man that I had like dated for like a wild weekend, and then it fizzled out because there was cancer and blah blah blah. And I woke up 50 minutes, right, an hour, less than an hour, I woke up to a text message from that person saying like, I'm in an emotionally available space, I want to be your everything. And I was like, yep, that fucking worked, right? And so when we think about, like, for you and me, we both think are very attuned to being conscientious about manifesting wealth. When I think about manifesting wealth, I think about freedom. I think about being able to go to the grocery store and buy whatever the fuck I want. Or right now we're living between a couple of different hospitals, and like being able to just like order Grubhub instead of like trying to cook in like a like a rental
Mm-hmm.
apartment, like Airbnb flat. That for me feels like wealth, of being able to be like, I'm going to order $100 of sushi because I want fucking $100 worth of sushi. And for you, it can be something a little bit different. Can you talk to us about like the feelings that you feel when you think about manifesting wealth?
Yeah, so when I was doing this activity yesterday, for me, what came up was a clip from RuPaul's Drag Race. If anybody's watched that. So there was a, I forget which season it was, but they were doing a parody of Get Out. And one of the queen's lines was, opulence, you own everything. And she like could not get it because she hasn't had an accent. So she was just like coming onto the scene voguing. And she's just like, opulence, you own everything. And I was like, that's my vibe. Like that came to me yesterday because how do I feel when I'm like in flow and making money? I feel silly. I
Yeah,
feel happy. I'm like my highest self is a drag queen, so like that's who's
that's
like in charge of my
beautiful.
that's who I want in charge of my life. So it's like I'm dressed up. I feel like, I feel really cute. I feel beautiful. I'm silly. I've got all eyes on me. I'm
Yeah,
sparkling, I'm performing. That's how I feel. Whether like anybody's actually around to witness it or not, that's like how that's how I am. That's how I feel
yep,
when I'm making money. I go live, I talk about things, I'm like excited to share my knowledge. And that's like literally the exact opposite of like when I'm broke, like whenever
yeah,
I've been broke, I'm very grumpy. I
yeah,
keep to myself, I hide, I question. It's like literally the exact opposite. So
yep.
for me, it's like anytime I start slipping into it, I start doing the opulence dance. And I just
I
like
love that.
instantly feel so funny. And it just makes me laugh because I just remember that scene. It's hilarious.
Opulence.
Opulence.
Opulence. Yeah, there's no wrong way, right? And if you're calling in love, right, your idea of kind of like, I put on perfume and I do this. And like when I was calling in love, I had a literal list, right? A boundaries list that was, it was like a job application. It said like soulmate. And I like, my boundary was I would send it, right? I was using Bumble, and I would send it to people and I would be like, thanks for matching with me. Here's the job description and what I'm looking for. I want a full blown, like, moving towards marriage partnership. And these are the qualities, right? And like, that was the boundary. And for like, on that was not, I'm going to look fancy and like have perfume on and stuff like that. It was like long term willingness to live on a boat and do this and do that. And Matthew and I were having like a deep relationship conversation yesterday. And I was like, there's just so many things that are scary to trust when you've gone through some of the trauma that I've gone through in relationships. And he's like, well, if ever you doubt, like, just remember that I lived for 8 weeks without running water in the middle of a medical crisis. And I was like, yeah, you did do that, right? And that came from a boundary of, I know who I am authentically, whether or not I have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner. I know who I am authentically. I'm going to embody being that person at all times. And the person who wants to be with me is going to be 1,000,000% on board with that, whether or not it's convenient for them.
Right. And amazing. And like when I was manifesting my partner, it was like, I wanted somebody who was going to be like totally fine with like letting me be absolutely 1000% free, meaning
Yeah.
like I can do what I want, I can like say what I want, like we have openness. And also, like, it's not going to be a big deal if like I want to travel by myself. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal if I want to do X, Y, and Z by myself. And here I have manifested an Aries. So it's like as free as you can get, but it's like we're both very independent. It means a lot to us. Like we don't
Yeah.
like we have shared interests, and we spend way too much time together because we're in, post pandemic times. But we have a lot of fun, and like that's what it was about for me.
Yeah.
For me it was like I want somebody like, and what was I doing the year before he came into my life? I was traveling like once a
Yeah.
month to go visit
Having
all
fun.
these friends. I was having fun, and like, I had basically gotten to this place where I genuinely, really, truly was like, I don't mind if it never happens for me. Like, if I never find someone, I'm okay with that because I'm a whole and complete and happy person by myself. Did I have lonely moments? Yeah, of course, everybody
Yeah.
does. But for the most part, I was like, I do not want my heart broken in the way that it has been in the past. And so nobody's coming into my life until they elevate my baseline of bliss. But
Yep.
like my baseline is
Love
here. And
that.
if he's not going to like be a blessing on top of it, then he's gone. Like that's
Yeah.
it. And it's like I had so many people come out of the woodwork that year. It was amazing. My first love came back and was like, and it took a lot for my romantic Pisces ass to be like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if my first love was like my last love? No, no, bitch. Not if he's not healed, and he wasn't. So it's like,
Thank
if
you
you're
for your application.
right, we regret to inform you, but no.
Hard pass.
Yeah, and it's like that, and then like I just had like a lot of these like kind of like low vibe people come up, and then after a while I just stopped looking and I just stopped trying to date, and like I ended up getting set up. And that's like big the fun thing, the funny things is like when I've been in flow, when I've been in true flow, I haven't had to do anything, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Like
because you were totally detached, right? There was no need energy. There was a, I feel this no matter what, right? And Oprah talks about this a lot, like her kind of aha moment that she came to, where she doesn't use the word manifestation all that often, but she talks about manifesting being in the color purple, and she's like running around this jogging track at a fat farm and singing like I surrender all, and asking God, her conception of kind of the framework here, right? She was asking God, like, give me the sense of peace of being able to watch this movie and be in a place of total and complete gratitude for the person that got the part that I want, right? And in that moment, she got a call from the producer, right? And was told, not only do you have the part, but like, please stop trying to lose weight. If you lose a pound, you're not going to have this, right? And so she was in a place of like total surrender.
wow.
And when she surrendered, when she said, I want to feel the feeling of being at complete peace, being 100% detached from needing this thing in order to feel emotionally at peace, the thing came, right? And not only did the thing came, but the thing came to her as she was now, right? Because the universe is never going to say to you, you are unworthy as is. And until you do a thing, please, like, get back to it, like go lose 100 pounds and then come back to us about feeling worthy in your own body. It's like, you have to feel worthy in your own body right now in order to be able to lose 100 pounds, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's kind of bring this on home. What's the one thing that you've manifested where you're like, oh my fucking God, it like blew your mind. There was absolutely no way you could have done this on your own through like hard work or saving or like being a good girl. What is that one thing that comes to mind?
I made $11,000 in cash in a single day, like
Yeah, you did.
literally. And I did not, and it was in ways that I cannot replicate. Like it was one person had found me because we were in like a group together on Facebook. It was like a group where people are looking to find people to be on podcasts. Okay. This is not like a business group or anything. And she had just seen comments that I had written on a few posts, just
Yeah.
talking a little bit about myself. She went on a deep dive on me for
I love when people do that. Yeah. Unbeknownst
Yeah,
to you, right?
literally.
Because the universe was doing it, like the wheels were turning without any effort on your part.
Yep, she went on a deep dive, looked at all of my stuff, like looked at like my profiles, which are, public, like watched me talk in a few different in a few different places, and like literally reached out. And I remember she was like, I'd love to like book a call. How do I book a call with you? And I was like, well, what's the purpose of the call? And she was like, I want to pay to work with you. Like
Yeah.
literally just said it like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So we
Sounds great. Come on down.
so we set up a discovery call, and then around the same time I had somebody else find me in like a really like strange way, where she was on a YouTube interview spiral. She was like just clicking YouTube videos, like she'd watch one, then watch the next recommended one, stuff
I
like
love
that.
that.
Landed on an interview I did where I was in, let me explain. I was in workout clothes. I think I had just worked out. I was like very pink, okay? Very pink, messy. You know, the messy top knot girls do when they're serious in the gym? It was like
Yeah.
one of those. I was I looked like a boiled chicken, okay? Like I was so pink. And I did this interview. It was like maybe a 10-minute interview with someone because I'd forgotten when it was. And so I just showed up like that.
You're like, as is, bitches, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, so I did this interview that had been a Facebook Live, and somebody put it on YouTube, and she stumbled upon it, and she just like loved everything I said, loved my vibe, and then checked me out on social media, and then was like, I want to like, yeah, I want to work with you. I want in on your program. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, great. And then like literally the two of them paid on the same day. One paid me like almost 8 grand in full, and the other one paid me like 4 grand in full, like
Yeah.
just under both of those. It ended up being 1 1
Yeah.
1 1 0. That was with the total money I made that day. And it was like,
Beautiful.
I cannot replicate this. There's no
Yeah.
way for me to do that. Like that was just divine. That wasn't me.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Yeah, the client that kind of became in so many ways, he like expands me every time I'm on a session with him. I'm just like, oh my God, I love what I do. I love who I am. I love what I get to be, right? And now I'm on an advisory board of a company that he's, created based off the work that we've done together, blah, 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 right? Like he found me through an old YouTube video of like me when I just did divorce coaching, which by the way, I only worked with women at that time, and he's like a former Marine, like war fighter. And he's like, you're just the person I'm supposed to work with. Right. And like, whether it's in work or in love or in money, for me, it's kind of the like, even on my very best day, there's no way that I could have pulled this off. Like those are the moments where I'm just like, this shit is amazing.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Shit is amazing. Well, Jessie DaSilva, tell us how the fuck people can find you.
People can find me in a few ways, but my favorite is my Facebook group, which has lots of free training there because I believe in the accessibility of information. So you can get there by going to fivefigurelaunchqueens.com, and that's the number 5. So fivefigurelaunchqueens.com. That'll take you right to my group so you can join it. And I give all the people who join a complimentary 20-minute call because I like to make connections and help you with your business manifestation process. If I can, I get a lot done. And then other than that, I'm on all the social media channels. So you can just find me with J DaSilva, some form of Jessie DaSilva, Jessie with an IE. So.
And if you would like to read the article in Forbes where she is featured, how do people find your Forbes article?
I think it's linked from my Instagram. So my
all right,
J_DaSilva.
There you go. The Millennial Money Witch is how you would find that if you want to Google around. But Jessie DaSilva, this was a fucking honor. You're the best, and I love you a million.
Thank you. I love you too.